911, what's your emergency? Hello, 911. What's your emergency? Hello? Hello?
It's the month of December, a couple of weeks before Christmas. You decide to stop by the local mall to pick up some gifts for your loved ones. As you step inside, you are greeted by the festive Christmas music, decorations, and a faint smell of cinnamon in the air. You head to the third floor and you start to look around. At first, you cannot comprehend. You think, maybe there's construction going on. You turn around and you see him.
This is Dark Stories.
On December 5th, 2007, many shoppers were witnesses to this horrifying event, the Westroads Mall shooting in Omaha, Nebraska. It was a regular day. The mall was filled with shoppers and workers, but that day no one knew that Robert Hawkins had his mind set on doing a horrible act that he was about to commit. But what got him to do this? Now, in no way am I going to be glorifying this killer. Instead, we should be remembering the lives affected by this tragedy. This man is a monster for what he did, but the story must be told how it is. Robert Hawkins, or Robbie as his parents would call him, was born on May 17, 1988 in Suffolk, England. His father, Ron Hawkins, was in the United States Air Force where he was stationed in England. According to the New York Times article, Robert Hawkins' parents divorced when he was 3, and from that point on he lived with his father, and his mother had little involvement in his life. Ron Hawkins eventually got remarried to Candace Sims. When I was doing research on this case, I happened to come across a show called Evil Lives Here. In this show, people share stories about their loved ones that become the killers. Season 1, Episode 1 is titled, Something is Different About Robbie. Here, both Robert's father and stepmother tell their side of their story about Robert and about that tragic day. I made sure to take plenty of notes on this. If you have time, I will highly recommend you to go watch this episode. This episode starts out with Robert's stepmother, Candace, talking about Robert when he was a kid. He would have many outbursts. These weren't just normal outbursts. He would cuss at you, yell at you, and do basically anything to hurt your feelings. This would be happening occasionally until Robert pushed the limit on both his parents. One day, his parents received a phone call. Robert had gotten kicked out of kindercare. Kindercare is basically a daycare that also offers early childhood education for kids ages 0 through 12. Robert got kicked out for hitting and kicking people. At one point, he even threw a chair to someone. His parents had no choice but to admit him to a psychiatric care. He was 4 years old. When he came back, Candace stated that he was not the same Robert that he was when he first got admitted. He came back with no emotions. Robert eventually grew up and was starting to become a young, strong teenager. His anger eventually started to come back. He would start to let that anger out on his stepmother. He blamed her for his parents' divorce and that his mother would never come back because of her. He became more physically scary. On one occasion, Candace tells a story on how one day she was outside mowing the grass. She asked anyone in the house if they could bring her a drink. Robert came back and handed her a pop. When she took the first sip of the pop, she right away knew that something was not right with this pop. It tasted like it was flat. She took another sip until she decided not to drink it anymore. That same night, she got physically sick. She found out that that pop that Robert gave her was mixed with a chemical. That chemical was pesticide. When she confronted him, all he said was, "It was funny." There was one huge event that occurred that eventually got Robert kicked out of the house. One day, Candace saw Robert leaving his older sister's room. During this time, his older sister was having money stolen from her room. So when Candace saw him leaving his older sister's room with a book bag, she asked him to give her the bag, which he wouldn't. Eventually, the two started fighting for the bag. She was trying to pull the bag out of his hands when her wedding ring cut his cheek. After this event, Robert left for school. His parents got a phone call from the school stating that they wanted to have a meeting with them. Robert was going around and telling his friends and the guidance counselor that he got cut on his cheek because Candace was hitting him and was abusing him. Not only was he lying about this, but he also told a couple of his friends that the only way that Candace was going to leave the house that night was in a body bag, because he was going to stab her in her sleep. Candace was scared for her life and eventually called Robert's psychiatrist when she found the words "kill her" carved on his dresser, where she also found a collection of pocket knives. The cops were eventually called and he was readmitted to a psychiatric care. For 5 years, he was in a psychiatric care. Doctors could not say what was wrong with him. They did not know what to do with him. He was even caught drawing pictures of his family stabbed to death with knives. After 5 years, it was agreed that Robert was ready to be released. During the time he was locked up, Ron and Candace got a divorce because they wanted to help Robert recover, and he would not come home unless Candace was not in the picture. He ended up moving back in with his dad, and at 18 he left to live on his own when he got a job and a girlfriend. He moved in with a friend, but during this time he got fired from his job and his relationship with his girlfriend had failed. Being depressed with everything that was currently going on in his life, he had hit rock bottom. In a suicide letter he wrote, and I quote, "I know everyone will remember me as some sort of monster, but please understand that I just don't want to be a burden on the ones that I care for my life. I just want to take a few pieces of shit with me." He also wrote, "Just think though, I'm gonna be famous." Robert ended up writing 3 letters, one for his friends, his family, and a will.
He thought it was other construction going on, so first couple shots I didn't acknowledge it till I climbed up on the scaffold, looked over the temporary wall that we're working behind, and I see a group of people running out, and from there I heard another round of shots, another 10 or so. I got down myself because I wasn't taking no chances, and we helped get the customer from that store to the back of the store, along with the rest of people we were with, and just kind of hid out. And
I don't know who's dead or anything. I just know that we saw things that you didn't think you were going to see at Von Maur's in Omaha, Nebraska.
I was in the gift department, and all you could hear was the shots, and I said, we gotta go, and I stood up, I said, let's go this way, and I went around and I looked back, and then I saw the guy in the children's department. Big, tall guy, real tall. And he just stood there with his arm like this, his hand straight up in the air, and shooting. And then I turned and ran.
"1:36 p.m. Robert is seen on CCTV entering the Von Maur store. You can see him walking around, then you see him walking out. Six minutes later, you can see him re-entering the store. This time, if you look closely, you can see something balled up in his hoodie. It was the gun. He then enters the elevators and heads to the 3rd floor. As soon as he exits the elevator, he starts his rampage. Many shoppers fled for their lives, hiding wherever they could, in closed racks, bathrooms, closets, anywhere they could hide.
You know what? I was on the 1st floor, and all I heard was what we thought was construction at first, and then all of a sudden I just heard a lot of shots, just all at once, boom, 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 and then I heard people say, "Oh my God, he's shooting people," and I just ran out of there. Just had to get my son out.
I went the employee way, and there was one employee over there, and I don't know her name, but I know her from working there, and she was just directing everybody down the stairs, and it was really pretty calm. Nobody was really screaming or anything. There were a lot of shots. It sounded like 2 rounds of shots, because there was a round of shots, and then it stopped, and then there was another round of shots.
For shopping, and we thought it was construction, bang, bang, bang at first, and then we were kind of making a joke about it, and then everybody started screaming, and we hid in the stock room and barricaded ourselves in until the police came and got us out.
The shots, there were at least 20, wouldn't you say, Mary? At least. They just kept going, and you could hear breaking glass, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I mean,
Robert then turned the gun on himself. On that tragic day, 8 lives were lost and 5 were wounded. Innocent lives were taken during a month that was supposed to be full of cheer, joy, and a time together with loved ones.